Okay, in this video, I'm going to show you how to simplify radical or square root expressions if they are given in this form, which one of your Khan Academies is given in this form. So basically, when you get something like this, you're going to want to multiply everything together um, and then simplify it, because you can't simplify this, you can't simplify this, and you can't simplify this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make one big square root. Now, remember, just a quick reminder, if I have something like the square root of 12 and I break it down to 4 and 3, the square root of 4 times 3, because 4 times 3 is 12, I get 2 root 3. But if I break it down to 4 and 3 and then 2 and 2, the square root of 2 times 2 times 3, this pair will come out as 1, 2, and the 3 stays in jail. So this guy escaped jail and this guy didn't. So we're going to use obviously the same concepts here, but they're going to look a little different. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make one big square root symbol, and I'm going to write down my numbers. So I'm going to write down the 2, I'm going to write down the 3, and I'm going to write down the 10. And then I'm going to say I have x cubed. I'm going to just writing them in order. An x. So I have an x cubed and an x right here. I have the 2, the 10, and the 3, which I wrote here. And then I have a y and a y, which I have here. So this y and this y. So the way I'm going to rewrite it now is I'm actually going to factor this 10 out to be a 2 times a 2. 2 times 3. And then 10 is the same thing as 2 times 5. The reason I'm going to do that is so we can easily see this double 2, which is going to come out afterwards as a 2. The same way it happened here, it's going to come out later on. But for right now, we're just breaking it down. Then this x cubed and x becomes x to the 4th, right? 3 plus 1 is 4. And then y times y is y squared. So just so we see the patterns here, this and this. I'm just combining all of this into one big radical. Now what I could have done is multiplied these to get 6 times, so 60, and then simplified root 60. Totally valid. But you're going to have to break it down anyway, especially if you use the prime factorization. So I figured keeping it factored is probably going to be easier in the long run. So now I'm going to take this 2 out, right? That 2 comes out, and I'm going to write over here a symbol, because I'm going to be writing what's inside the square root, what's outside of the square root. And 3 times 5 is going to be 15. That stays inside. So this 3 and 5 stay here as 15. Actually, I'll even rewrite it so that we're clear that this is 3 times 5, and that's 3 and the 5. And then the square root of x to the 4th, again, this is a 2 here. 4 divided by 2 is x squared. So that's where my x's went. It came out. And then the square root of y squared is just y to the 1st, which is where my y's went. So my final answer is going to be 2x squared y. The square root of 3 times 5 is 15. Final answer. Let's try one more, which looks a little different. For this problem, what you're going to always do if you're given numbers outside of the parentheses, let's use a different highlighter color. So if I have numbers like this, 2 and 3, that 2 and 3 get multiplied together outside. 2 times 3 is 6. So that 6 is right there. And then I'm going to multiply everything inside of the square root. So again, we have 5 and 15. So I'm going to write 5, and I'm going to break down 15 right off the bat, 3 and 5. Then I have x cubed, which just is x cubed. There's no y. And then y and y, which is y squared. So I have x cubed and y squared. So here's your y, here's your x cubed, and then here are my numbers. Again, I'm just writing it all together. Now, what is going to come out? What pair is there? 5 or 3? Well, 5 is a pair. So this 5, 1 and 2, are going to come out as 1, 5. But that 6 doesn't go away. That 6 stays on the outside. So it's going to be 6 times 5. Then, again, I'm going to rewrite my my root. What stays on the inside, what didn't escape, is that 3. That 3 does not escape. That 5 comes out. The 3 does not. Now, what about x cubed? We spoke about the square root of x cubed in the last video. Is how many times does 2 go into 3? It goes into 3 once, and how many are left over is 1. So it's x root x. So I'm going to put that x that comes out here, and there's 1 x left over inside. And then what about the square root of y squared? Is simple because they just cancel each other out, and it's just y. So my final answer is going to be 6 times 5, which is 30, x, y, the square root of 3x.